Tonight, let me tell you the story of Janus at the door, a gentle tale from Roman times, where every passage from one space to another was thought to carry its own quiet guardian. Imagine a narrow street in ancient Rome at dusk, the air soft with the scent of baked bread cooling in open windows, and the sound of a distant bell from a temple. A carpenter is finishing the sanding of a new door frame, his hands brushing away the shavings that curl like small ribbons on the ground. The wood is smooth, ready to welcome those who will step through it. Before he gathers his tools, he sets a sprig of laurel above the lintel and whispers a few words to Janus, the god with two faces, one looking back and one looking forward. It is not a dramatic ritual, only a gesture, but it carries a blessing for all who will pass this way. In the hush of evening, it feels as if the door itself listens. The Romans believed that thresholds were special, places of both pause and motion. A door was not simply wood and hinges, but a line between what had been and what was about to begin. They imagined Janus as the god of these lines, keeper of transitions, whether small or great. His shrines were simple, often no more than doorways left open, so that he could look both in and out. On festival days, the people would give him honey cakes, sweet wine, and prayers not for battle or riches, but for smooth beginnings and peaceful endings. Even the Senate in Rome would open the gates of his temple when war began and close them again when peace returned. Yet most of the time, he was thought of not in grand politics, but in daily passages, leaving for the market, returning from the fields, watching a child take first steps across a room. As night settles deeper on our quiet Roman street, the new door stands ready. A young merchant returns home, weary from bargaining in the busy market. He runs his hand across the frame, feeling the slight warmth of the wood. To him, it is no ordinary doorway, but the sign that he has arrived safely, that his journeys have been blessed. Inside, his children laugh, their voices spilling outward to greet him. The door closes softly, like a sigh of relief. Somewhere in that motion, he imagines Janus smiling with both faces, one glad for his safe return, the other already preparing for tomorrow's departure. Not far away, a soldier pauses before his own home. His sandals are worn, his tunic dusty, his shoulders heavy from months away. The doorway before him feels like more than an entrance. It is a promise. He sets down his pack, touches the threshold, and breathes. To cross this line is to step from the world of marching and shouting into a place where voices will be softer, where a mother or a wife may be waiting with warm water to wash away the dust. Roman poets sometimes said that Janus was the first to be honored in prayers, because without him no other god could be approached. He was the hinge of time itself, the one who opened the way to all beginnings. For the soldier, this meant that even after hardship, there was always the chance for a gentler start. He steps through, and for a moment the world is quiet, only the sound of his own breath mixing with the flicker of a small lamp. Now, let us listen to the street as the night grows later. Children slip inside one by one, their feet bare, their whispers fading. An elderly neighbor, leaning on a stick, takes her time crossing her own threshold, pausing to look up at the moonlight caught on her doorway's arch. She remembers her husband, who built this door many years ago, and she whispers his name softly, as though Janus himself might carry the memory forward. In her small room, she lights a taper and places it near the door, a tiny flame that seems to echo the stars. She feels safe, as if the god of doorways keeps watch not only over the movements of people but also over the flow of memory, making sure nothing precious is lost when one chapter ends and another begins. The hush of the Roman alley deepens, yet in each doorway there lingers a sense of life's quiet rhythm. In some houses, laughter still flickers. In others, only the crackle of a fire remains. To think of Janus is to think of all these passages together, the turning of hours, the gentle steps of generations. His two faces do not mean confusion, but balance. One face attends to what has been, the other waits kindly for what is to come. The carpenter who shaped the door earlier feels this balance too. He has returned to his small workshop, placing his tools carefully in their chest. The scent of sawdust is still in the air, and he feels content, knowing his work will guard a family's comings and goings. He smiles, thinking that perhaps this is the true blessing. The ordinary act of caring for the spaces we move through. The knowledge that every beginning and ending deserves its own quiet reverence. And so the night passes with this thought, that every threshold holds a story, that every step across it carries a blessing. The wood of the new door glows faintly in the moonlight, and though no one notices, its hinge is warm, as though touched by a gentle hand. Outside, the street grows still. The air is soft. The sound of a distant bell drifts once more, and in the calm, Janus keeps his watch. Each door is closed, yet each door is alive with promise. By morning, those who step out will feel it again, the reassurance that to leave and to return is part of the same gentle circle. Tonight, we rest knowing that in every passage, visible or unseen, there is a blessing waiting to guide us forward, and another to welcome us back. As dawn comes slowly to the Roman street, the first light brushes across the doors that line the alley. Each one seems touched by its own small story, waiting to unfold again. The carpenter wakes early, washing his hands in cool water before returning to check his work from the night before. The door he shaped feels steady beneath his palm, its grain rich with a gentle sheen from the oil he rubbed into it. He thinks of Janus as he stands there, the god who never looks only one way, but always both ways. To the carpenter, this is a reminder that every craft has two sides, the making and the receiving, the effort of hands and the comfort they give to others. He smiles quietly, hearing footsteps approaching. A group of children hurries past on their way to fetch water. They laugh as they race each other down the alley, sandals slapping the stones. One of them pauses at the carpenter's new door, her fingers brushing the smooth wood. She does not know the prayers whispered over it, yet she senses something kind. In Roman households, children often learn to greet thresholds with respect, taught to step carefully, to offer even a small nod before crossing from one room to another. To them, the door was not an obstacle, but a friend, something that knew their growth year after year. The carpenter watches her run on, and he imagines Janus smiling with his younger face, the one that always looks forward to what is fresh and possible. Later, a merchant's wife steps out with a basket balanced on her arm. She lingers in the doorway, adjusting her shawl against the morning chill. She remembers how, when she first came to live here as a young bride, her mother had pressed her hands against the threshold and whispered blessings for fertility, for peace, for laughter. Even now, years later, she still feels those words alive in the wood. She steps onto the street, the smell of bread and herbs filling the air, and her heart is light. In Roman tradition, it was common to mark new beginnings with Janus's name, whether the start of a marriage, a journey, or even a year. The first month itself, January, is said to carry his blessing, opening the way for what follows. The wife does not think of calendars as she walks, yet she carries the sense of beginning anew, and it steadies her steps. By midday, the street is lively. Traders call softly, neighbors greet one another, and even the stray dogs find shade by the doors. A weary traveler pauses at the carpenter's new frame, asking for directions. He leans against the post, grateful for its support. In another telling of Janus's story, he is not only the god of doorways, but also of roads and gates, of all crossings where choices are made. The traveler, uncertain of which path to take, closes his eyes for a moment, resting in the doorway's cool shade. When he opens them, he feels less troubled. Perhaps the choice will be easier than he feared. He bows his head in thanks, not to the carpenter, who has already moved on, but to the invisible guardian who seems to dwell in such places. The threshold has given him a pause, and in that pause, clarity. As evening approaches, the alley grows quieter. Lamps flicker one by one, and the warm scent of supper drifts from kitchens. An old storyteller sits by her door, her voice carrying gently to those who pass. She speaks of Janus not as a stern god, but as a patient one, a figure who waits at every crossing to make sure people are safe. She tells of how the earliest Romans imagined him as present at the very first dawn, when time itself began to move forward. Without him, there could be no beginnings, no endings, no safe passages. Her listeners, both young and old, feel calmed by this thought. To know that someone watches over every opening and closing, every farewell and welcome, is to feel less alone in the patterns of life. The night gathers as she finishes her tale, and the people drift back into their homes, carrying a little of her peace with them. Inside one of these homes, a father returns from his work at the baths. He carries with him the smell of warm stone and steam, the heaviness of labor, but also the satisfaction of providing care. His young son greets him at the door, tugging at his hand. The father kneels, placing his palm on the threshold before stepping across. He explains softly to his son that this is a way of thanking Janus, of remembering that each day begins and ends with a passage. The boy nods, his eyes bright, and imitates the gesture. In this small exchange, the tradition continues, not as strict ritual, but as gentle teaching. The father knows that long after he is gone, the memory of touching the threshold will remain, a way of marking the rhythm of daily life with gratitude. The night deepens again, and the street falls into stillness. The carpenter rests, the merchant's wife sleeps, the children dream. Yet the doors remain, each one a silent witness to comings and goings, each one carrying its own blessing. To the Romans, Janus was more than stone or image. He was a presence woven into the fabric of their lives, always there at the points where paths began or ended. And so, as the moonlight returns to crown the arches and lintels, the sense of safety grows. Every departure feels less lonely, every return more welcome. The alley itself seems to breathe with calm, a place where thresholds are more than wood. They are promises, watched over by the two-faced God who sees both yesterday and tomorrow. Tonight, those who listen may feel it too, that in every change there is a guardian, and in every doorway, a blessing waiting to be touched. The third night falls upon the Roman alley, and the rhythm of life has slowed once again. Doors close gently, shutters are drawn, and oil lamps flicker with soft golden light. The carpenter steps outside one last time to sweep away the shavings that still linger on the stones. He pauses at the new doorway, resting his hand on its frame. It is not only wood, to him now, but a keeper of moments, a friend that will hold countless stories of departures and returns. He whispers a final goodnight to Janus, as though speaking to an old companion, and feels the comfort of leaving the night watch in the god's care. The air is cool, touched by laurel and smoke, and the stars above lean low. Inside the merchant's house, supper has ended. The family sits quietly, children drowsy, listening to the faint sounds from the street. The father tells them once more of Janus, the god who never turns away because he always looks both ahead and behind. He explains that this is why people honor him at the start of each year, at the opening of each day, and at the threshold of every home. The children imagine the two-faced guardian, not frightening but calm, smiling in both directions. They think of him as a lantern hung in the middle of the path, one flame lighting what lies ahead, the other shining kindly on what is behind. Their eyes grow heavy with the thought, and soon they drift into sleep, soothed by the idea that every new step they take will be watched over. Elsewhere, the elderly neighbor lights her small taper again. She places it carefully by the door, as she has done for many years. Tonight, she speaks aloud to her absent husband, telling him how the day has been, what she has seen, whom she has spoken to. She trusts that Janus, keeper of passages, may carry her words across the invisible threshold between memory and presence, between the living and the beloved departed. The flame flickers, steady and warm. She does not feel alone. In this act, small and simple, she embodies the Roman belief that the threshold is not only between streets and rooms, but also between times, between what is remembered and what is still to come. She lies down afterward, comforted, knowing she has been heard. At the far end of the alley, the old storyteller sits again, though fewer gather around at this late hour. She hums softly before she speaks, her words almost like a lullaby. Tonight she tells of how Janus was sometimes called the god of doors in the sky, opening the morning and closing the night. She explains that in one telling, he was present when the very first dawn broke over the world, when chaos parted to reveal the shape of time. This story, simple yet grand, settles gently into the hearts of those who listen. They imagine that even the stars are doors, each one a passage to wonder, each one held open by a kind watchman who ensures that no step into the unknown is ever entirely without blessing. The storyteller's voice grows softer, and at last she too falls silent, her head nodding as though she has walked across the threshold of wakefulness into rest. The street grows quieter still. Only the faint rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl remain. The doors stand in silence, yet they seem alive, touched by the memory of so many hands, so many moments. One can almost feel the warmth in their hinges, as though Janus has passed by and left a trace of his presence. To those who dream, he may appear not as a stern guardian but as a gentle guide, pointing with one face to where they have been and with the other to where they are going. In dreams, thresholds open into gardens, into fields, into skies threaded with starlight. In these passages, the dreamer finds that each crossing is safe, each step welcomed, each return awaited. And so the night folds itself around the Roman alley. The carpenter sleeps with the satisfaction of his craft, the merchant with the relief of safe return, the soldier with the peace of homecoming, the neighbor with the flame of memory, the children with the promise of beginnings yet to come. Over them all, Janus keeps his watch, not loudly, not with force, but with the steady patience of one who understands the value of every small opening and closing. His gift is not thunder, nor wealth, nor fear, but reassurance. The quiet truth that to begin and to end are both sacred, both necessary, both deserving of care. When morning comes again, doors will open, sandals will step into the street, voices will rise. But for now, the world rests. The passage into sleep itself feels like a threshold, and perhaps Janus waits there too, smiling as we leave the day behind and enter the soft country of dreams. Tonight, as you listen, may you feel the same blessing, that you are safe to step forward, safe to look back, safe to rest in the gentle circle of beginnings and endings. Every threshold holds a blessing, every doorway is a promise, and every passage, whether small or great, is watched over with care. Sleep now with this assurance, as steady as the hinge of a well-made door, as warm as a lamp at dusk. Good night, and may your dreams carry you gently until the morning light.